next project here. I found these pretty cool ravens sitting on some skulls online, and I 3D printed them with the new Overture 3D print, so these won't leave any ash behind. And I'm also doing a couple more Godzillas, which hopefully you'll see the video for that soon. And I got these all vented out, so as you can see, the metal will pour in from the bottom and it'll fill up. So anything that's closer to the bottom is what we need to vent out, because that's where possible air pockets will form and create head pressure, pushing back on the metal, preventing it from filling in. So you can see like the bottom of the feathers here. I think I'm going to try doing all of these in aluminum bronze because I need to get more experience with that. And I want to try to see if I can replicate what I've done with the Godzillas and the dogs and get a good cast of aluminum bronze. But I also clear coated these because I don't want to have the same issue I was having before, where wherever there's like a seam, or maybe there's like a weak spot in the 3D print, or somewhere that's just a lot thinner, and it lets in some plaster and eventually creates like a hollow part when I cast the metal. We are ready to pour. Okay, so here are all the casts I did in order. So this was the first all the way to the last cast, and I've noticed something interesting. Actually, a few things that are interesting. One, I was kind of dumb as to how I was pouring this because I completely forgot what I was even doing. So when I poured this, it obviously filled up both sides of the channels because it was one mold. These two, I completely forgot that I did two patterns in one mold, and so I filled up the one side and then the other side wasn't filling up, and I'm like, well, what the hell, why isn't the other side filling up? Oh yeah, you idiot, because you made two in one, and you also had these separated, but connected them with the vents. So that way when you poured down the one side, it started filling up the vents into the other side, and then either froze, started filling up the top here, which luckily I did it quick enough to where it didn't freeze the top of the Ravens, because that could have been a huge disaster. That could have literally just went all the way down, started going up here, and then froze. And then when I poured on this side, this wouldn't have gotten to fill up, which is what I think happened, like here, here, and so like a lot of it didn't even get to properly vent out. I should have vented these either separately, or if I'd vented them together, also connected the pouring channels, or added some kind of like pouring channel down here, but then that would have created a lot more grinding work and stuff. So very poor design with the venting and stuff. I definitely should have done that a lot better. I probably should have just vented them separately. Now, the other thing that I noticed, which is pretty interesting, so the first two that I did here was using the 5% aluminum bronze that I cast. And you can see there was quite a lot of shrinkage on these parts, especially in the sprue channels. Like I literally just broke that off because they're so like porous and just shrunken in. And this Godzilla turned out actually fairly well until you get down to the bottom. So as you get closer and closer down to the bottom, you can see the shrinkage becomes a lot more apparent. You can see some vents here froze before they got to properly vent out, and I think that's because it just had to travel so far. So I poured down the middle channel here, and so it filled up all the way up here first, then I had to go all the way up, and it filled out that vent, which I think was also a mistake, because instead of going down this way first, it filled up these vents and then goes down here, and then it also filled up this feeding channel first and then filled up the end of the tail. But I got lucky because since it was so small, it didn't really need a whole lot of metal, and so it filled up like this much, and it was enough to keep that solid. Once you get a little bit closer, you could see like around the feet there was a lot of shrinkage, and it was kind of shrunken in. Around the sprues wasn't too bad. There's a big hole right there underneath the leg, but I don't know if it's salvageable. I'll have to take a closer look after I get some of this stuff removed. Usually when you get those rounded edges, it's because of trapped air or because of it freezing. And with that much molten metal from the bottom of the head to right there, I don't think that would be from freezing. But just to compare, here is the finished one, which you'll hopefully have seen the video for by now. And this is the one made of brass, and then the one on the left is the aluminum bronze. You can see some pretty significant differences in the casting. So obviously the aluminum bronze shrinks way too much for something this solid, and even like the little guys, you can see comparatively just so much better of a cast. Like all the spikes turned out, you can see on there, it's like a little rounded. There's like no shrinkage really. Just turned out so much better with brass. Now something I also need to work on is the temperature of the bronze. Maybe I need to let it sit a little bit longer and get a little bit hotter, but then I risk cracking the mold more. But now that I have the sand, maybe that's not as big of a deal. But the other thing I wanted to point out was this and this is the 5% aluminum bronze, and then these two here I mixed in some of the 10%, so it was more realistically probably like 8% aluminum bronze with this stuff here, and it actually turned out way better. I can't believe it. I thought adding a higher aluminum percent content would actually cause it to shrink more like that and be a worse cast, but if anything, it actually made it better. You can see the sprue almost has like no signs of shrinkage. This one has like a little bit, and it wasn't able to fill it all the way because I ran out of metal. And you can see like a little bit of like the skin kind of shrinking around the actual part. This is the one I kind of cleaned up a little bit, so you can see just like, look how great that turned out. Like, see, there's like almost no signs of shrinkage except for like right there on the side, but comparatively it is way better than this stuff. I mean, look how bad this stuff is shrinking. So I don't know if it's because the higher, I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can explain it to me because I don't really understand it yet. I want to do some more testing with this.